Wealth is a Choice podcast. Boom.
Let's listen to it. Let's listen to it.
All right, Roop. Thanks for coming in, man.
Great to be with you again, James. I've been known you for many years, almost, 17 years now?
Probably.
Yeah. Congratulations on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks. So you just mentioned the coffee, so I got to tell you the story about how I found the coffee. It is good coffee, isn't it?
Oh, I said, actually, I came for the coffee and I stayed for the podcast.
Yeah.
People offer you coffee. You don't know how good it's going to be.
Yeah.
This is really good.
So I read an article about how coffee can be old. Sometimes it could be moldy, and you should try to use fresh coffee. And so I just Googled crazy fresh coffee. I don't know why. That's what I put in the area. I was trying to find a place that I could get some really freshly made coffee. And you, believe it or not, there's a place in Troy called Crazy Fresh Coffee. Yeah.
Crazy Fresh Coffee. That's the name of it.
That's the name of it.
And that's where you get it.
That's right. That's what I get. So I'm like, oh, great. I never heard of this place before.
Yeah.
So I showed up. It's a warehouse. They weren't expecting me at all. It's a warehouse. You go in, it's like a little office building.
Yeah.
There was a lady working at the desk there. And I said, hey, can I get a bag of coffee? She kind of looked at me like, what?
Asked, I want some crazy fresh coffee.
You know what?
Please.
Yeah, do you got an espresso? Like, yeah, I can get you a bag. She goes in the back of the warehouse, comes out with a bag. So they're a distributor, like a wholesale distributor of coffee. Gotcha. So that's where we get our coffee all the time now.
So now this office, it's catered from Crazy Fresh Coffee.
Yeah.
Fox 2.
Yeah.
Crazy Fresh Coffee.
But we have it at our house. We told a few friends about it. But
that's really good.
And I think there's not that many people that just show up and buy like a bag or two at a time.
But if you ask me who in your friend circle would actually just show up at a warehouse and ask for Crazy Fresh Coffee, it would be James Studinger. Yeah. So it makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I was a little shocked when I pulled up. Like, okay, I thought it was going to be a storefront. But yeah. So it's good. So Roop, a couple things about you. You got into the business at age 14.
Did.
Yeah.
It was a long time ago.
Yeah. So you've been doing news for decades. You got a show called The Pulse, which I love, by the way.
Thank you.
And your wife's a therapist, and I think that probably helps you be as compassionate and as good a listener as you are. And you've interviewed some of the most powerful people in the world. You've got a hell of a resume. And you've got incredible perspective. I've known you for a long time. Anytime I get to have a little side conversation with you, I'm always very excited to hear what your thoughts are on something.
Well, thank you. I learn a lot from the people around me, so I've enjoyed our conversations over the years too.
Yeah. So what at age 14 drove you to go in and get pursuing your dream so early?
I wanted to be sitting here with James Studinger in 2026.
Who would have thought?
You got to reverse engineer that.
Yeah.
You know, I wanted to do this job back then. I mean, I always came from the perspective, and I often think maybe it was a little bit of perhaps my parents coming here with nothing and watching them and learning that if you want to get something, you really have to go after it yourself. And I was taught early on by my parents that if you really want to be something, especially in this great country, then the opportunity is there. Don't make excuses. Try your best. Try hard, and try to get what it is that you want. And so I thought, why wait? I mean, all these people, I always thought it was odd. I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm just wired this way, but I thought it was weird that people would say, okay, I'm going to go to high school, go to college, graduate, and then I'm going to go look for a job. I thought that was very weird, strange. And I don't mean to disparage people who think in that way, but personally, I thought that was like, wait, why would you wait all that time, the most formative years where you're learning and you're curious and you have energy? Why not go learn your craft if you know what that craft is that you love and start early? So I just started at age 14. And at the time, the current day YouTube was public access. I mean, there was no way, literally, municipal access TV. So it was Troy's WTRY, and it was channel 53 on the UHF dial on the cable. And I just went in there and said, I would like to start my own public affairs show. And one thing led to another, and here we are.
Yeah. Was there a platform back then at all that introduced you to getting out and pursuing it, or you totally took the initiative on your own?
There was no platform. There was no real program for people to, at that age, do any kind of apprenticeships or learn how to do a show. But I would watch the news a lot, and I would study nationally and locally how the local newscasters, how the national newscasters did their jobs. And I think that's one of the things I just decided to create my own opportunity instead of wait for one to be created for me.
Okay. Last week I was up in the UP back in my hometown of Manistee, and we've got this annual event that we do with the kids. It's called Learn It, Plan It, Pitch It.
Love it.
And where they come up with ideas. These are middle school and high school kids. They come up with a business idea, something that they're passionate about. And then they go through 10 weeks and they study it and put some things together. And then they pitch it to a panel of judges. And then we award a first, second, third
That's
place
really great.
winner out of it. But what always blows me away by this is how in the creativity, the artistic ability that they have, the ideas are phenomenal. And if there wasn't a platform, that nobody would know that these things existed in these young minds, and these young minds wouldn't have a way to get it out. So that's why I asked the question. It's, so there was nothing to pull it out of you. You just went for it, which is pretty cool.
No, it was, but I think I think what that program you're talking about is so important is because we need more of that. Because not every 13, 14-year-old is going to take the initiative to say, look, maybe I want to be a lawyer, I want to be a doctor. I need to go call Corwell and say I'd like to shadow your doctor for even an hour. I mean, there needs to be a way for more young people to not be undercut and taken out of these opportunities. I feel like we look at young people monolithically. We kind of say, oh, well, they're just kids. These kids are individuals who have their own desires, their own wants, their own abilities and talents. And it doesn't need schooling alone. It needs the encouragement and the development and a place to put that talent. And I think that's the program you're talking about. That's great that you all are doing that, because that's what's needed more than anything, especially now with, it's such a buzzword to say, look, because of AI, but like clearly, we have to be adaptive, and we have to be adaptive quicker than we ever have been. Our industry has to be, your industry has to be, everyone who's watching, you have to move and move quickly. And that may not feel good, because in the past, I'm 49 years old. If you wanted to get something done, you get months to do it. Okay, I want to develop this new thing that I'm doing. So you wait months. Well, now, sadly, if you wait months, someone else already comes up with it. And because of the great technology we have,
months,
it's on.
weeks, I know.
Now it's like, if you have an idea, go start it. You wanted to start a podcast? You could have sat there and said, well, I need the perfect everything to start. Or you could say, let's just go and let's roll. And that's what you've done. Good example right in front of us.
Yeah. These kids, one of them had an AI business already.
Yeah.
And he was in 7th or 8th grade.
And that's something.
And he built an AI model that didn't give you the answer. So it could be used in schools where it was prompted learning. You download, like the teachers would download the syllabus into it and stuff like that, and it'd prompt learning, but it wouldn't kick out the answer for students as they went along the way.
That's really
it's
smart.
Like 7th grade, 8th grade.
When you see young people and you say things like, you see people in their 20s, you say, I'll be working for them one day. Now you got to look at like a 7th grader and say, I may be working for them, but sooner than you even thought.
Yeah.
And that's something to keep in mind.
Yeah. And a lot of times people would shoot, it's easy to shoot a dream down, even internally or externally, it gets shot down. But it takes a little courage for these kids to get up there. It's pretty fun. They're a little nervous,
sure.
They don't speak in public that often and stuff. Why would they and how would they? But
yeah, those are. But I will say those are not soft skills. We tend to kind of look at what hard skills are, what soft skills are. And hard skills are, that's the main core of what I'm doing, that expertise that I have to master. And then we kind of look at public speaking and presenting ideas as a soft skill. I think in this world of AI and in this world where everything is so automated and quick, the human connection and the development of that is more important than it ever has been. And I think if you can walk into a room and connect with the big boss, if someone walked in here and looked for a job from you, what would be the selling point? Would it be all of the great tech that they're able to execute, or would it be the human connection that you felt and the intelligence that was truly present in the room? And I think being able to convey that, you don't have to be a great orator. I think there's this kind of, I do a little public speaking coaching, and I often have clients say, I'm not going to be a news anchor. I'm not going to be a public speaker like you. I said, I just want you to be authentic whenever you're in the room with other people. And that means if you're nervous, being able to say in front of someone in a group, man, I'm really nervous. I usually don't speak in front of crowds, but this message is so important. I'm doing the things that's the scariest thing in the world for me to do, which is stand up in front of you all. But here's why I'm so excited about this idea. Like, how do we teach people how to do that? I'm excited about that. I want to do more of that.
Yeah.
Helping teach people how to be present and how their presence can help convey an idea.
Yeah. And with these kids too, like some of them, it is really difficult to speak. This one young man with the AI, he gave a brilliant presentation, but some of them had great ideas, but they had a hard time talking. And that's part of life too, is we can't just let the ideas come out from the people that know how to express them verbally.
Right.
You know, how do you help people that naturally have a very difficult time expressing it? How do you get those ideas too? Because they're brilliant.
Well,
You're not always going to have the skill
No.
set that's the same. Like,
True.
you know, I can't. Not everybody's a good speaker and a great idea generator at the same time.
No, the great idea people who may be terrified at public speaking and who may not even be scared, just don't want to do it. We have to honor and respect how we extract those ideas and put them into action as well. I agree with you. I think, you know, we have this, I hate to say it, but these, like this Dale Carnegie, who was this old school guy from the 70s, and Tony Robbins, like, you know, everyone walk on fire, rah, rah, rah. Well, no, not everyone is an extrovert. Not everyone is going to be on board. And why would you put 4,000 people in a crowd and say everyone needs to learn these 5 things so that we can all be the same?
Right.
Isn't that what we're doing with AI? Like all these, like what makes us individuals are the unique qualities, and that includes introversion. And I think that that's really important. You mentioned my wife. You know, Julie is a therapist, and she often talks about, you know, the marginalization of the quiet and those things that, like, there are quiet people out there, and loud guys like me shouldn't get the mic all the time. You know, we should have room for everyone at the table, and I think that that's really important.
Yeah. I'm one of those people that if you give me permission to speak or share an idea, I'll do it. Sometimes in a shy way, or sometimes, you know, hesitantly, but I'm not somebody that's going to stand up, you know, out of nowhere and wave my hand and say, look at me, and, you know, I've got an idea over here.
Yeah, and we need to, again, like I think we just have this monolithic way of just saying, oh, these are the speakers, these are the thinkers. Well, some speakers are thinkers, and hopefully they are, and some thinkers aren't speakers. And we have to be able to understand that, like, everyone deserves a seat at the table.
So you mentioned something which I say a lot, and so I'd like to hear your perspective on it, because I hope to God it's true. I think that in a strange way, AI is going to make us more human. It's going to bring about more human connection than before.
Yeah, I agree.
I feel like it's pointing towards more important, and I think we're going to have more of it.
I think you're right in 2 ways. We don't know what's going to happen. The map is being drawn as we speak, right? But I think there's 2 things that people will crave. And if you kind of look at where the puck will end up, right? Because right now the puck's in transit. So where the puck ends up, like, where's the puck going now? And if you look at that as a good hockey town metaphor, you kind of have to go, well, I don't know exactly where it's going, but it's going somewhere in that direction, right? And so now what do I do to prepare myself for that future? And I think one of the things that you speak of, I've been saying that for the last few months, is that we're going to eventually, the pendulum is going to come back to a place where it says, man, I can get all my work done on a computer. My best friend is Claude or ChatGPT or Google AI or Meta, and I can figure out everything I need to know for my workflow, how to execute this presentation, how to do it all. But ultimately, when you go through enough of that and you're saturated with tech, at some point you're going to want to sit down and you're going to crave, because it's a human thing. The same way you want to go walk on the grass barefoot or go see a beach. You can virtually see a beach. There's no reason for you to actually go. And if we really think about what human connection is, a good metaphor would be nature. If we understand that we want to actually go to the woods, like James Studinger, if you know James, you know, hunting and hiking and fishing and experiencing nature tactically with your fingers and with your eyes and with your smell. If we know that the human brain, the human condition, human nature needs and craves that, then of course we're going to crave and need other human beings around us. But what we've done is simplified it to say, the reason I need other human beings is to work for me. Or the reason I need human beings because I need customers. The reason I need human beings, those are all very functional ways of thinking. But the human need that we have for other humans isn't always about productivity. It's about being with other human beings, the same way you want to walk barefoot on the grass or head on the beach and listen to the waves and smell the salty beach. That's like, you can do that virtually. For $4,000, you can go to the Apple Store today. You can buy yourself a set of goggles.
Yeah.
And you can go and
You can have the music. You
can
probably
hear it.
put some fish smell under your
You
nose.
could do
if
all
you put
that.
Seashells.
But there's something inside of you
Yeah.
that's going to know, because the human mind is that smart.
Yeah.
And it's the spirit that's being neglected. It's not the mind. The mind's being fed. The mind's being fed with, as you say, if you can put some kind of a salty scent under your nose and then put the ocean sounds in your ears and then visualize
A
it.
little box of sand with
A little box
barefoot,
of sand
yeah.
in your barefoot. So what you've done is you've created all of the sensory pieces. What you haven't been able to replicate, and you won't, is the spirit being fed. And I think that when you and I sit together as a community and we sit and we have a cup of coffee, that will be missed. And it'll happen quicker than you know. And all of a sudden, you know, I heard someone yesterday say they went to a coffee shop and one whole section said, no laptop zone. If that's happening already, and it wasn't because there weren't plugs available. It was
Yeah.
because they didn't want people staring down hunchback over their tech
Right.
to talk about their ideas in the world.
A
Look,
coffee shop is kind of a place to gather and
yeah,
and chat.
have community.
Yeah.
And by the way, that doesn't mean you shouldn't be able to go to a coffee shop and work on your laptop.
Right.
But there should also be, we should be encouraging one another to make eye contact and actually like meet with other people. And that doesn't mean the speakers and the thinkers. I mean, all of us together to be able to just be in community.
There's a coffee shop in Port Sanilac I love to go to, and the guy's name is Dan Finn that runs it. It's the only little coffee shop in town. But there's no music on. There's no TV on. There's no distractions. There's some chessboards, some games. But you go in there and you chit chat.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People from town come in. Visitors come in. They sit down. They chit chat.
Yeah. We have to stop being so, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but so like everything's for a reason. I have to do. I have to meet with James because I need something from him. I need to meet with this person because I need to get this done. This functionality that we have and this Uber functionality, this need to say, I need to accomplish these 5 things. How do I do it quicker, more efficiently? You know, what doesn't account for efficiency is, again, the human spirit. And I think that again, I mean, I sound like a hippie, but I mean it. I believe it. And I think even the biggest technophile in the world, deep down inside, even if they're an introvert and they don't want to talk to people, want to sit at a coffee shop and see other human beings. The curiosity that we have about other human beings will never and cannot be killed.
Yeah. I'm shy, and even if I am shy and not maybe communicating with everybody in the room, I'd love to hear what's going on. I love having some conversations for sure.
You're the guy who, James and I run into each other whenever I host an event at the Detroit Economic Club or cover an event. You know, you have brought your sons to experience that as little boys and kids, to be able to see that. And then you always are kind of like in the corner watching, and you not only are watching the speaker, but you also watch how people are interacting with one another. And then you also take part in that. And so yeah, that's an important thing. And your kids are better off having grown up with that environment.
Yeah, I think the first time we met, I think, was in Pontiac. Who was the guy running for governor? Do you remember his name? He ended up being the under Snyder. He ended up being the
Brian Kelly.
No, it was a different guy. I can't think of his name. But anyways, he was running on the Democratic side for governor, and I think that's where we first met. And I had Owen at the time.
Yeah,
he was probably about this tall.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. And you brought him to experience and learn.
Yeah, I wanted him to see that it's normal to meet candidates and have conversations with candidates.
Yeah, candidates are not VIPs.
Yeah.
Politicians are not special
it's
people.
normal to get to know who's running.
Exactly. There are public
and
servants, and we should. Your son grew up knowing, both your kids knowing that, hey, they should rub shoulders with us.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So you mentioned hunting. I love to spend time in the woods. It's my reconnect.
Yeah.
But in hunting, I guess I'm hunting, but mostly I'm spending time in the woods.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit of hunting because I do eat the red meat I eat is the deer that I get each year.
Yeah.
We don't buy red meat at the store, so I get a few deer and then process them up, and that's what we have for the year. But anyways, when I'm out there, I could be out there all day long. It is my vital time to reconnect. I'm not in a blind. I'm out in the trees, sneaking around, very quiet, and it's amazing how much my body recharges to spend that time in the woods.
That's amazing that you do that. I would argue that not doing that would make you a different person.
Yeah.
Doing it changes you
Yeah.
and makes you more authentic and connects you back to yourself. It's recharging the batteries for
Yeah.
you. And there are some people who will say, well, that's not how I recharge. I recharge by watching TV and Netflix. And I think that's great too.
Yeah.
But maybe we all deserve a little time with nature where, there's no clock. There's just the sun and the moon. And
I'm literally out there
sky.
sometimes from sun up to
Yeah.
to sunset
Very cool.
in the woods.
Yeah,
It's
it's
a long
good.
day.
It is, I'm
Take a
sure.
little sandwich with me.
It's all you need.
Chris says every time I come back from camping or being up north, I'm a different person.
I can tell you, Julie and I went down south to Florida and spent 3 days straight, not traveling. Like we traveled one day, we were gone for like 4 or 5 days. We were for 3 straight days.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't get in a car. We stayed at a place where we could walk to the beach and sat on the beach for 3 days straight, only getting up to get a smoothie from the little shop at the corner
Yep.
or going to dinner and then sleeping and listening to the waves as we
Yeah.
went to bed. Like, I think that changes the constitution of your body and how you feel. And again, that's more my wife's department as a therapist, but like, I'm sure at some level, from a soul level, from a somatic level, it changes the frequencies and kind of resets you.
Yeah. In the beginning, it's a little like, am I really going to lay here for a half hour?
Yeah,
Like
you get
45
restless
minutes
at
or an
first.
hour. Like in the beginning, like I should be looking at something. I
Yeah,
should be doing
I
something.
agree.
And then after a little, as time goes by, it's like, okay.
I felt the
Kinda
same
melt
way.
into the moment.
The first day when we first put like the towel down on the
Yeah.
beach chair, and I thought 3 days of this,
Yeah.
like I don't even know. Maybe we'll.
Yeah.
In my head, deep down inside, I was like, well, maybe if we get bored, like after 2 days, we'll go explore the other part of Florida. We'll hop in
Yeah.
the car. We don't have to do this for 3 days.
Right.
There's this irritability that we have about being still, and I think that is conquered quickly by the ocean waves.
Even if I go for a weekend of where I am hunting, where I'm literally just quiet, not making a sound,
Right.
in the very beginning, I always have the sense of there's so many things I need to do. There's so many things I should be doing.
Right.
I always have that sense in the very beginning.
Yes.
And after a while, this stuff starts to melt away, and I just reconnect.
Yeah, we put our phones and left them in the room upstairs and put
Oh,
them in the
good.
safe, and then came down to the beach.
Yeah.
One day I did bring the phone. I think it was the last day, so I don't know what that says about
Yeah.
anything that I'm saying. If I'm just a complete hypocrite about what I'm saying about
No,
nature.
or maybe you absorbed what you needed to absorb.
yeah,
it's
I
okay
was
to
full.
have 50-50.
Yeah, exactly. And I wasn't just stuck on
Yeah.
the phone, but I was reading articles and
Yeah.
kind of. I think I was trying to reemerge into my job because by day 3, if you're disconnected in this news cycle from politics for 3 days, and you try to come back and host a nightly political talk show, there's an institutional knowledge that you missed in 3 days. That's a to be continued story that
Yeah.
needs to be read up on. So I think
Yeah.
that's why I was like, I got to go ahead and look at this.
So my boys are older now, and I've put together a few family movies. And I've noticed, even within myself, when they were young, we had a camcorder, which was a little tape, and I would record like a half hour at a time, sometimes 40 minutes at a time, 20 minutes at a time. And as the boys got older, and we kind of ditched the camcorder for a digital camera, ditched the digital camera for a phone,
Yeah.
everything turned into 30-second snippets.
Yeah.
And then in life, when you look at social media, I got a few stats on that. 1 in 5 teens say they're on YouTube or TikTok almost constantly. Almost half say they have to cut back. About half teens believe social media is a mostly negative effect. Over half of adults get their news from social media. About half of adults mostly get news because they come across it versus finding it or seeking it out. And in young adults, about 70% get political news because they come across it. All in the snippet format, very short, 30 seconds, 45 seconds. In the 1990s, your news cycle was from 6 to 11 p.m. Can you imagine that? And people would watch news for that length of time, the entire time. And Gloria Mark, I don't know if you've heard of Gloria Mark, UV in Irvine, has measured attention span for 20 years. It dropped by 70% from 2.5 minutes to 45 seconds over that time span. She's got a book called Attention Span. And your job is to hold attention. So all these changes have developed over the course of your career. And what have you seen with that? And how do you keep people's attention? And how has news adjusted with all this?
Live. We talked about human beings wanting and craving nature and wanting to see other human beings. Viewers, whether they be on TikTok or on Fox 2 News or wherever it is, if they see live programming, if they know it's live, they're more likely to stay with it for a longer period of time.
Okay.
I don't have the stats of how long they stay, but I know that we did a show the other day. It was our 10 p.m. news. You talked about the 6 to 11 p.m. news,
Yep.
the traditional old school 10 p.m. newscast, right? But it's not the 10 p.m. old school newscast anymore.
Yep.
Our challenge from our managers who do the research and look at the things that you're looking at is how do we keep an audience tuned in longer? And what we found is that unique local content that's streaming live will be watched.
Okay.
And we're noticing that people have noticed the format change. What do I mean by that? You're probably going, how do you go live from... The other day we did an entire 10 p.m. newscast where almost everything was live. From the beginning when I said good evening till when I said good night, everything was live.
Okay.
So think about a podcast like this one that you're watching right now. This is a conversation. This is an organic conversation. We're not producing it in order to say, now let's take a look at the video of when my kids were smaller, and then there's like a voiced track, over that, indicating that you're kind of pre-producing pieces of that. That's kind of the old school way of doing the news. Now they're saying every reporter that's out there just needs to be live, and have a conversation with the anchor, because the younger audience and the older audience that is also being conditioned in the swipe click culture cannot stand to sit here and say, Fox 2's James Studinger has a look at how things have changed in the world of podcasting, and then go to this tape that's 2 minutes long. No one's going to stay for that, right?
Okay.
So what we've done instead is say, all right, so a lot's changing in the world of podcasts out there. So what's next? Well, let's go to a podcaster himself, who's actually a wealth consultant as well, James Studinger. James, thanks for joining us. What's going on? And then have this conversation. Do it for 3 minutes. Have video elements. Have the attention span cannot just stand to see two people necessarily talking, unless it is a podcast where you've seen that. But it's a newscast. We now have video boxes where the conversation's happening in a box up here, and the subject matter, Iran war or whatever, is in a box here with a graphic that says we're talking about the Iran war. So now my attention span, it looks and it mimics the click culture.
Okay.
And it's also a program that's streaming on Fox Local, our app. Like you have Netflix and Amazon. Now there's a Fox Local app. So people who are literally clicking through their phone can now go, wait, click, and they go, boom, they're in a newscast.
Okay.
And the newscast isn't what they grew up watching. So there's a host, me, sitting there interviewing guys and gals for an entire hour, reporters and guests that just come on. I have an AI expert coming on tonight to talk about how grocery stores are using AI to start pricing. That's a guest on the 10 p.m. news who's going to talk for 5 minutes about it. And what's going to be the video on the bottom right? People checking out groceries. So that your attention span, you're watching this is like, oh, you're just watching this video while you're seeing the guy talk to me with a graphic that says AI hitting a shelf near you at a grocery store or what have you, right? That segment's going to end. We go live to a reporter, then we go to sports, and we go, let's talk about the Pistons. Local, unique programming that no one else is doing. That's what we have to do. We can no longer rest on the laurels of, oh, we're going to do a traditional 5, 6, 10 o'clock newscast where people are going to run on their TV to watch something that they've already seen 20-second clips of on their phones. So what makes it unique? Our personality.
And it's not repeatable then.
No.
Either. I do remember back in some of the shows, you'd see a little clip. Hour later, you'd see that clip again.
Not anymore. In fact, the challenge that the reporters have on Fox 2 is when you get out there, do the story, and if you come back at 6, tell me something else about the story.
Right.
What's new? What else did you notice? It can be flavor. There was a while where journalism was thought like, you got to go prepare your report and then present it. Now journalism is, what do you work? What's happening? Let's make this organic. Pull the curtain back. Tell me what's going on. How did you find out about this? I mean, I go on my show now on The Pulse, and I'll tell people at home. So I've invited these candidates to come on the show. We're still waiting to hear back. It doesn't need to be the Fox 2 debate with Roop Raj interviewing, these 3 people. It has to be more organic and real and authentic. Back to the human connection piece.
I know, isn't that wild? I love it.
Will you break through the glass?
Yeah.
If you are real and you're authentic and you're believable and people know you worked hard to get good information. Because I'll tell you one thing that social media is failing at miserably, even as you see those numbers go up. No one knows what's real and what's not anymore. AI has made, that's the curse of AI. The boon of it, we all know, the benefit of efficiency and productivity and connecting pieces and parts of our world. It's great. But the part that's really bad is the fact that someone can make a video of you dumping illegally something in your parking lot in this office building and make it look grainy and actually use all the perspective and dynamics that police people would look at to see your height, your weight, constitution, and put that out there. And by the time it's debunked by local law enforcement, people already consumed it.
Yeah.
So I think we're at a very interesting stage where people are going, I get that I get this immediately, and I may not be seeking out news, but when I see it, is this even real?
Yeah.
If someone says something about a candidate running for governor right now on social media, my wife literally goes, hey, honey, is this real?
Yeah.
And Julie has walked up to me with her phone and been like, is this real about the voting thing? And I'll go, hold on, let me check with the congresswoman.
Yeah.
And I'll text an actual lawmaker in Washington and say,
Right.
is this real? No, it's not.
Yeah.
It's an exaggeration.
Yep.
Someone created this for clickbait
Right.
or to push a political thought. Bottom line is this. The newscast is changing because people are changing. We're not dinosaurs who are saying, well, we're just going to rest on the laurels of how we did things. We're instead saying, how do we adapt and adopt the technology that's out there and join the party, but use real journalism as the backbone of it?
I've got you probably have seen this. We'll put it up so everybody can see it too. So not all AI is not all stuff on social media is intentionally misleading.
Yeah.
But the thing is, there's often a lot of misleading stuff, but once it's put out there, somebody will see it and not realize the truth behind it. So did you notice this picture that went out with NASA?
Yes.
And I saw this passed out a lot. And there's this big, beautiful Earth image from the 1972 Apollo 17. And then the new one, and it was hazier. And the reaction that I saw everybody have is, oh my God, what's going on with the world? It looks so much worse than it did before.
It was like a camera, wasn't it?
Well, the first thing I noticed, so this was the picture that they took in 2026 Artemis 2. And when I saw this picture, and I did notice, hey, this one this is a printout, and our printer doesn't capture the beauty of the blue that is in here. But this image was so starkly beautiful compared to the new one. What I noticed on the new one right away is this glow behind it.
Yeah.
That's the first thing I saw. I'm like, well, that's obviously a nighttime shot. There's no reason to have a glow behind it. The sun had to be behind it.
Yeah.
And then when I looked it up, sure enough, this image was shot at night. The moon was in front of it, so it cast a little bit of light onto the Earth, but the sun was behind it, and that's why you see the glow behind it. You actually see stars in the background, and lights were actually on. If you look over here, there's actually lights on, the city lights on and stuff like that. And they had to keep the technical terms of a camera, but you had to keep the shutter open for a really long time to bring in light. A day shot versus a night shot. But the fact is that this thing got out there, and I don't know how many millions of people around the world, maybe even billion, I don't know how many people saw that, and their first reaction was, oh my God, the Earth looks horrible compared to what it used to look like. And then by the time anybody does bring up the truth of it, it's gone, and nobody remembers.
Well,
it,
I think that's
the image was in their head.
You're illustrating a really.
And this is
important
unintentional misdirection, if you will.
Yeah.
No, I don't think this is ever put out to be misleading.
No, but at the same time, because you have a camera doesn't make you a journalist. If I make a grilled cheese sandwich, I'm not a chef.
Right.
And I just don't understand how people think that. And I'm not trying to be all high on my horse about journalism, because certainly there are good social media journalists out there who have cameras and cell phones, and they go out and tell stories. If there's a tornado that happens and someone takes a picture of the tornado in their backyard, and by the time we get out there, it's later, then clearly journalism occurred.
Yep.
And someone documented what they saw.
Yep.
That doesn't mean they doctored it. It means that they caught the tornado on camera.
Right.
And they saw homes being wrecked, and then they reported it back to us. We're not saying that citizen journalism doesn't matter. What I am saying is, if you choose to practice journalism, don't malpractice it.
Right.
Understand context matters, facts matter, and perspective matters, and fact checking matters. Not with one person, but with three. These are the things that I think if we're entering this world, hazy or not, of a whole new frontier, we have to figure out how to teach everyone how to be responsible, not only purveyors of information, but people who dispense information. And I think it's really important that we all take more pride in what we post. Don't share something because you saw it and it seemed interesting. Share it only when you verify it, not with a friend. Now, do you have time to go verify with the local township office if it's true that the sidewalk is being destroyed at the park?
Yeah.
Well, if you don't, then maybe you go to fox2detroit.com and see if they covered it and go tweet that article out.
Yeah.
We can partner and work with the community and making sure that stories that people don't have the time to explore. I don't know who's taking the time to go talk to all 3 Senate candidates one-on-one. I am. And so I hope that people who are watching will say, you know what? He's taken the time. He's done his homework. He's talking to all 3 of them. I want to watch this debate. And it's not something I'm going to find on TikTok, although the clips from the debate you will find on TikTok, right?
Yeah.
So this is how we kind of work
But
together.
they'll be genuine clips.
Real clips, not AI-generated clips.
Yeah, or don't post it.
Just don't post it.
Also, I go to Facebook. I was thinking about this too. I remember we did an interview when Facebook was going public. Remember that?
Yeah,
That was
a while back. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. And but anyways, I go to Facebook to have fun. If I'm going to go there, I want to laugh. I want to see something funny.
Yeah.
I want to see what one of my friends are up to. Very simple stuff. I don't go there to get angry or to get all like fired up, about something going on. Yeah. So you do find that I've got some friends that throw some stuff out there, and I'm like, okay, I know this friend is never going to verify.
Yeah.
And then I have some other friends that I hope they do verify because they are in a position of knowledge. And there's one guy I went to college with, and he's putting out some information. Then one time he put something else that I knew wasn't right, and I checked with him. Like, hey, did you check it? He goes, no, I didn't. I'm like, I'd love it if you did, because I'd love to be able to rely on if you put something out there that has been checked. He goes, you're right, I got sloppy.
It's something,
I'll do it.
yeah.
But there's people that I know they're never gonna. And so I just don't even, it doesn't, in and out. I'm not going to give that credence. And there's people that I think try to. But for the most part, on social media, I'm going there to giggle, laugh, see what my buddies are up to.
And I love that. I think there's, you either have high frequency engagement or low frequency. And low frequency is anger and jealousy and hate and rage.
Yep.
And they make a lot of money off of that.
Yeah.
I mean, big tech is making bank off your temper. And they want you to be ticked off at your neighbor and mad about politics and mad about the news media. And they want to pit people against each other. And I hope I'm alive to see the light of day after saying that on your podcast, because I feel like big tech, if you ever want to know who's controlling the country, look at the first 4 rows of an inauguration. Think about it.
Okay.
The first 4 rows of an inauguration. And this is not a Trump versus Biden versus Obama versus Bush thing. This is the first 4 rows of an inauguration. The people who have the sweetest tickets at an inauguration likely have given something to the candidate.
Right.
They're the people who would be controlling, in many ways, and influencing what you're going to see in the next 2 to 4 years, 6 years, 8 years, whatever it is, what office you're talking about. But have no mistake that if big tech wasn't so big and wasn't so powerful, that they would be held to more account like they are in other countries about. And I'm not saying you got to regulate everything, but I'm saying you got to know the damage that's being done. I mean, if more people are being hurt because of mental health issues through social media, shouldn't we know about that? Should we know about the damage that's being done to kids? And by knowing about it, shouldn't there be some accountability? And so why is it taking so long? Well, follow the money, and you'll see this is not a President Trump. This is congressional leaders, Democrats and Republicans, who have taken money from big tech. There are politicians who have taken money in years past from big oil, big pharma, and there are drug companies, and there are many organizations that have been protected because of the money that they've given. That needs to stop. And I think the control over social media ultimately has to be about discipline. And I don't know, I hate to say it, but I trust a lot of my neighbors and friends to have a lot of things, but discipline isn't one of them when it comes to truth telling. And it's something that I'm sensitive to because I believe that
Because they don't have the information.
They don't have the information. Yeah. They're posting a picture from of a politician from 4 years ago of their reaction to something that the headline is then swapped out and it's something new. so and so is laughing about this, or this person said this about this.
Right.
Video of Hillary Clinton walking out of a car. Look at her health. Well, that was from 2015 or 2008.
I remember she kind of lightheaded one day,
Yeah,
had a bad day, a little bit sick, stumbled or something.
But there's a whole new generation of viewers who hadn't seen that,
Right.
who now are saying, "Oh my goodness, look at that! I had no idea that she was not doing well," and they spread it and share it, retweet it, comment on it. And actually, confirmation bias is huge on social media. If I don't like this team, I'm going to find a reason to hate them more.
Right.
And social media, the big tech folks know that, and the algorithm is parasitic. It will literally find a way to find everyone who hates James or hates Roop, and it will open. Think about this for a moment. Social media opens up pages to people who don't even follow you if you post about something that they hate. So if I post about this coffee mug and how much I hate this coffee, even though I love the coffee mug. It's very nice.
Looks like an old pair of jeans.
It's so cool. But if I hated this coffee mug, it would, if I posted about that, social media is so smart. AI is so smart. That's what's driving this technology. To be able to say, James hates this mug. So you don't even follow me. And it opens the door for you to see the post so that you comment. Now all your followers start seeing that, and those especially who hate that mug, they open it up to them. So it's a mob mentality, and it ends up
fast too.
It's fast. It's within minutes.
Somebody commented on some guy wearing an aero helmet on a bike, and he's making fun of it. I'd never seen this guy before, but apparently that's what he does. He's sarcastic. He makes fun of things in a good, humorous way. And I looked at his little video, that my buddy posted. And then as I scrolled, there he is again. And now I'm going really fast. So I don't get only him forever. It's fast, man.
It's fast, and the algorithm is smart and quick. And so I think it's not a matter of look, whatever happens in Washington needs to happen in terms of regulation, and they're working on it and they're figuring out things. But the FCC regulates what we do, right? So we're Fox 2 can't just go out and do anything they want and be irresponsible. We're held responsible to a standard that the government is aware of the work that we're doing, and they know that facts matter. You shouldn't be swearing on television. You get fined. The FCC is regulating all of that. Big tech needs to have the same type of regulation, but perhaps even in a way that it is taking a closer look at how things can be hurting people, not just helping people. And by the way, there's great benefits to social media as well. If in good time, and you're not spending the entire day on it, it can connect you with your neighbors and your friends.
Reconnected with all kinds of
people.
You
connect with people. You feel a sense of community.
Chris
when you're
went to school in Japan when Facebook first came out. She reconnected with people,
100%.
Friends over there in Japan. She never would have reconnected.
I have relatives all over the world, and we're able to instant message pictures and share moments and connect with old friends from high school. I mean, the people suffering from this the most are the people putting on high school reunions.
Yeah.
Well, why do I need to go? I know what the 35 people I want to keep in touch with. I see what they're doing every day. There's nothing to catch up on.
You want to walk on the beach, though, for real.
Yeah, that's right. That's true. Yeah. So you want to go and see people. But yeah, it's interesting. I think there's benefits to it, but I just think we have to be careful. And look, the reason that I'm here talking to you is because of what I do for a living. We're not unaware of the fact that people are morphing and changing their habits, but we're along on the ride with them. We just want everyone to, if you have a camera, if you can type words and you're going to say something, make sure what you're saying is true.
I would love it if everybody did that.
More people can.
Yeah.
More people can. And I think the onus is also on us to say that's not trustworthy and calling it out.
Yep.
That's also important.
So you mentioned something about money, politics and money and donors. I was at an event, this is probably 10 years ago. I don't know how long ago. This was a long time ago. It was a fundraising event for a governor candidate, and some friends invited me. They had an empty ticket, so I went. And there's this guy that came out. There was a real social, just kind of meandering around, and the governor candidate was there just talking to people. And this guy comes out, older guy, and he puts his arm around him, and he says, "I got you," or something like that. And they chit-chat for a little bit. And then he leaves. And everybody, there's 10 of us talking in a circle, or 8 of us. And everybody there was oh, they're all freaked out about it. And I'm I have no idea who this guy is. But everybody else did, apparently. And they're all excited, and the candidate's kind of excited about it. And so it turns out there's one of the richest people in the state of Michigan. And a week later, I see advertisement for a town hall gathering, which was supporting something that this particular older gentleman was trying to do with that candidate.
Sure.
And if I wasn't at that event, I would have no idea why that is being put out there in the public space to talk about.
You're right.
I would have no clue.
You're right. And that access to being there. I mean, you're someone who takes pride in, and you should, in going to these events and seeing and observing and being an observer. But it is incumbent on all of us to understand, like, reverse engineer everything. Why did it end up like this? Whatever the thing is. And especially in politics, and say, what happened to make this happen? You know, there's always a cause and effect, and there's someone behind it. And it was pretty smart and astute that you actually kind of saw that, recorded it in your mind, and then the next week put that together.
Yeah.
They're hoping that you won't.
Yeah, well, there's so much money. I'm always baffled by how much it costs to get a pretty decent job in the Senate.
Yeah.
Or the House,
Yeah.
or the president.
Yeah.
I mean, $1 billion being spent on a campaign. I mean, it's a tremendous amount of money, and that's not getting smaller. And the money comes from somewhere.
Yeah, it does. And I think, you know, you follow the money and you understand why things are the way they are in any administration and with any candidate who's running for any office. And it's important, I think, you know, there's been talk about campaign financing reform for years. I mean, I think, you know, Clinton was talking about it in '92, and then Bush, and, you know, after that. And nothing seems to have changed drastically. And because of that, we still have the same institutional problem, which is, why are things the way they are? Who's controlling us and the things around us? I think it's important to keep that in mind.
Yeah. One of the things I want to ask you about is, because I think there's two things going on. We have two primary parties, Republican and Democrat, and each party is doing everything they can to be in control. And if you're not in control, you can't get anything done. It's just the reality of it. If you control the House and the Senate and the governor or the White House, you can pass all kinds of stuff.
Sure.
And if it's a divided, then some things are going to get passed. But if you're the party that is not in control, you know, you can't even get a bill to be seen in the committee. You know, it's
Sure.
crazy what a difference it makes if you're in control or not in control. So even if a lot of these people are friends or like each other, known each other for a long time, can get work done together. At the end of the day, there's two parties that are very directly fighting to be the primary party at any given point in time. And one of the things I noticed on the voting record, so this is, I don't know if you heard of DW Nominate before. I don't know if you saw that.
I've seen it, but yeah.
Yeah, so they have been tracking voting records going back to the 1700s, which is pretty wild. And what they're looking at is how often the two parties vote together or separate. And so I've got an image here. This is how often in the 70s there was overlap between the two parties on voting records in D.C.
Sure.
and today, where it doesn't exist. So the two parties are not coming together to vote as politicians, and they are constantly trying to become the majority party. And so they're constantly trying to divide the country in terms of these two powers. At the same time, a lot of the research, Pew Research and stuff like that, Common Ground, I think, is one of them. They are finding that more and more Americans share a lot of the same views. Like, Americans would look more like this.
Yeah.
And how
More
much,
moderate. Yep.
Yeah. And then, but the voting is looking more like that.
Makes sense. I mean, it's how things are marketed. You know, if you looked at a chart like this about fast food versus healthy food, you could probably find what people want and what people actually do, what's quick and what's not. I think in this case, it's the fast food of politics. You know, it's easy to get mad or excited about one issue. It's easy to be swept up in family arguments about this stuff that polarizes us further. It's easy to have, as I say, confirmation bias by opening up your phone and looking at social media. And because of that, the fracture is more when it comes to voting. But I do believe that the first chart were more like that.
As people.
Because
Yeah.
if you go, look at social media, and it's such it's not always an accurate view or a snapshot of what's happening. If you go into a restaurant and look around, go to the drugstore and pick up your prescription and look around, look at the kindness by which people treat one another. It's not all. It's almost like people, they say road rage incidents are up, but then when people get out of their car and walk into the restaurant, they're not raging at each other for walking in front of one another and pulling chairs from other people and throwing down at restaurants. It's not an accurate view to say, look, road rage incidents are up. It doesn't mean that people are raging inside of restaurants and stores. Similarly, people at the voting booth may be voting in this kind of diametrically opposed way, but the way they operate every day is with a lot more community and sensibility, saying it's okay that you think differently than me. I can't tell you the number of stories that we hear from people who tell us that their neighbors, had a Trump or a Biden sign or a Kamala Harris sign. And I can tell you dozens and dozens and dozens of people reached out to me to say, I think you should do a story on my neighborhood. We all get along really well, and we all completely disagree with each other politically. Right. And we have fun together. Our kids go to school together. It's not as though everyone is as polarized as they are at the polls in community. And I think that's an important thing to remember.
Yeah. Personally, I can't even remember what they might have been, 2 or 3 negative human experiences over the last 6 years, like hardly any. But sometimes when you go out, to your point about going into a restaurant or something, my perception is that half the people should be angry at each other, but they're all opening doors. Excuse me. Oh, I'm sorry about that. Or, just so polite and outwardly, you're right. Considerate in helping each other.
You're right about that. And I think that's a good takeaway from this conversation. I hope at least one of them is that we don't need to be taking the bait, so to speak, and acting as we do online. Look, if this is up to you. If you don't like the way you're acting online, that's some self-reflection that you can do. But when you're hiding behind an avatar of your cat, dog, or favorite sports team icon, and you're just screaming from a rooftop about how you're awful and you're terrible, and then there's bots that come in there to like support the points, and then that kind of triggers more responses. If that's the world that you think is the real world and is accurate, then maybe you need to go to that restaurant, the neighborhood cafe, diner, whatever it is, and sit there and have a cup of coffee, put your phone away, and look around. Because honestly, people who disagree vehemently are actually eating and having drinks together, and kids are going to school together. It's not as bad. Go to the school. Look at the school pickup line. People are orderly picking up their kids. Why? Because it's the most precious commodity in the world is the kids. See how they act around that. Do you think all those people agree politically? But when they go home and they open up their phone, screw you, you're the worst, I hate you, you're stupid. I mean, it's crazy to me. And the algorithm is not just supporting it, it's rewarding it with more engagement. So I think we just have to be aware of it. Maybe we can't change it. We at least have to know what we're dealing with.
So I told you I go to social media to get a little giggle or laugh. So you're reminding me of this one video I saw where there's a fence and 2 dogs are barking at each other like crazy. And it's an electric fence to like a driveway or something. And the fence opens and both dogs kind of stand there and kind of look at each other. Then the fence closes again. They go,
that's exactly it.
Yeah. And then they opens again. They kind of stand there.
The fence is the phone, right?
Yeah,
absolutely. I think you're right.
So there's another couple of stats here. This is More in Common. This is this organization called More in Common. They've got some stats. They found 85% of Republicans and 89% of Democrats believe in unconditional free speech, but 80% of Democrats and 85% of Republicans say it's important to respect those you agree with. Again, shared values there. Each side estimates only 30% of the other side believes those things. And they've got other stats where people's perception of this distance that we have is much greater than what the distance actually is. Most people are completely in agreement on all kinds of things.
Yeah.
But we think that maybe we're not. And then this is a study, like you mentioned, that go to where the puck is. That thing's been around forever. Here's another one. Swedish psychologist Ova Svensson, this is a study from 1981, asked drivers to rate themselves against the average driver. And this was replicated back in 2023, a recent study. 93% said they were more skilled than the average, like me. Like, I think I'm a better driver than Chris. Technically, she has a better record than I have. But 9 out of 10 think that they're better than the average. And then another one related to that, a Dunning-Kruger effect, Cornell research in 1999. People with the least competence in an area tend to most dramatically overestimate their competence. The same gap in knowledge that makes them bad at the task makes them unable to see how bad they are. So we've got a long history of understanding that our perception isn't always grounded in reality, and sometimes it's way off. And our perception has become that there's a lot of this fighting going on. In reality, there's a whole lot more common ground than we believe.
Well, I'm glad that your podcast is bringing this up, because I think, it's important to reflect on that. Mm-hmm. And I think, one thing that I think people are afraid of is being wrong. It's like, well, I can't be wrong. And my wife does a lot of work around that shame around being wrong, mm-hmm. and what that really means and how heavy of a weight that carries, mm-hmm. from so many different systems in our society, mm-hmm. From religion to to just emotional health. Mm-hmm. You're wrong. Mm-hmm. Well, okay, so what does that mean? What does that look like? Mm-hmm. Being corrected is not a shameful thing. It should be something that is it's literally correcting us into a better version of ourselves. Mm-hmm. I'm often correct. I mean, I'm a punching bag. I'm literally on TV every night, 5 times a night, mm-hmm. and on streams. And I host a nightly political talk show. I have viewers who say, they call me out on things. Mm-hmm. You asked that question, but why didn't you ask about this? And I respond. Mm-hmm. And if it's an email, I'll respond. If it's a tweet with you're hiding under an avatar of your pet, and you're using like ridiculous language, I'm probably not going to respond. But I don't even read a lot of social media. But I do read the emails. And if you took the time to email me, I'm going to take the time to email you back. And a lot of these emails are just critical of my work. And I say back, you're right. I think about it before mm-hmm. I respond. You're right. Mm-hmm. That's a great point. Mm-hmm. That's a really, really good point. And I'm ready to read some of these pieces of mail on the air. Mm-hmm. Not because I'm some refined, intellectual. It's because I just want to be more of a beginner's mind. I want to come from a place that says, as a journalist and as someone who has been given the microphone, like, keep learning. Mm-hmm. Keep refining, keep becoming better. And becoming better doesn't mean being more set in your ways. Becoming mm-hmm. better means learning new ways, mm-hmm. and understanding that I don't have all the answers. I'm learning like everybody else. And that's one thing I think, we have to be ready to be wrong and to be able to say, I just didn't know. I should have known that and I didn't. And then try to correct it and move forward. And I think if we all do that as consumers mm-hmm. also, we'll just make the world better.
Yeah. So, Roop, this is my 21st podcast.
Wow.
I know.
Congratulations.
Not that many, I know. But in a weird way, 21st catapults you into another
You're an adult
level,
now.
Apparently. Yeah, I know. Apparently, most podcasts don't make it to past 20. So
that's really great.
It seems kind of weird. But you've done thousands of interviews. And just the only reason I say it's 21 for me is because I've already learned so much about listening in having a conversation with people, just in this little mini experience of being, asking questions and listening. And you've done thousands and thousands of interviews for decades. And I'd love to hear about what you've learned, what you've developed in your listening skills, and, how you hear rather than have an idea and just run with it.
First of all, congratulations. That's amazing, because you broke a wall, right? Because 20, usually people don't get past 20, and
Apparently.
Here you are. You're doing well, and you're curious.
Couldn't ask for a better person to break that wall with. Thanks.
I'm excited about it. I am. But I think you're asking a question that you've answered, because you're good at it. And I paid James a compliment just a moment ago when we took a small little break, and I just said, James, you're really good at this. And the reason I say that is not just because you're a friend, because you truly are. And the reason you're good at it is because you're curious. And I just, we talk a lot about how quickly the world is changing. But one thing that hasn't changed, perhaps the speed at which we need to deliver has changed, but it's human curiosity. Mm-hmm. Truly being curious about an answer. Also, though, not being naive and understanding that the person on the other end of the microphone may have an agenda. Mm-hmm. And so having some, I guess, borrowing from AI, some predictive sensibility about what it is that they want out of the interview, and really kind of meditating on that, thinking about it for a while.
Ahead of time?
Ahead of time. Like if I know I'm going to interview a congressperson, you know, sitting down and kind of going, why do they want to be on? What is it that's going on that they need this media for? And really understanding that, talking to other people on the phone without showing your cards, calling 3 other congressional aides on the other side of the aisle and saying, what is it that is being worked on right now? What are the big initiatives in the next 2 weeks, 2 months that we should know about? And taking notes and understanding it, learning. And once you kind of piece that together, when you're finally sitting down for an interview, you don't script questions necessarily when you're talking to a politician. You have, like you have, bullet points. You have information to work with and from. And I think that's just having that basic childlike curiosity, asking questions the way that people at home would. I find it a little bit off-putting when I hear hosts professing what it is that they know in order to ask a question, because I believe that it seems, I don't know what the number would be, but you have some great stats in front of you, but I would imagine that in marriage and in politics, 80% of questions are statements.
Okay.
Questions are statements. People are asking questions, but they're making a statement.
We want to convince or...
Yeah, it's a soft way of making a point.
Okay.
Asking a question, right? And so that tool is in journalism can be used, but it should be used sparingly. You should truly be asking questions because you're curious. But you watch cable news and you see often they're asking a question, but they're just making a point.
Okay.
You know, don't you think the people at home deserve more when it comes to their politicians? You're not asking the question. You're making a statement. You're saying people at home we all deserve better.
Right.
You should be ashamed of yourself, Congressman.
Right. Yeah.
But when you code it that way and you look at it that way for that framework, you kind of go, I don't want to be that way.
Okay.
I'm asking politicians and people questions because I truly am curious about their answer. Then you got to factor in that don't be naive and know what they want out of the interview. So kind of understand the game, zoom out, do your research, talk to your people from both sides of the aisle, understand the issues at hand, know that if they say something that's not true, that you have the facts in front of you to counter it. Once you're that prepared, you come in with a sense of confidence that can't be beaten.
Okay.
Because what they're counting on is that they're going to tell you something, you're going to buy it. And if you already know the story from not 2 sides of the story, but from 8 sides of the story, and you took the time to do the research, true journalism is really understanding the context, the perspective, and the pieces and parts of why someone would do what they do. A little psychology in there. And if you do that, I think you come up with really good questions that come from the heart and that really come from a place of human curiosity. And when you're able to do that, you humanize the person in front of you, and they're used to someone who's confrontational and screaming and yelling. I don't do it. I'll be persistent. If the person doesn't answer, I said respectfully, you didn't answer the question.
Right.
And I ask it again. If they don't answer it, I ask it again. But this whole, I got to yell and punch you in order to make something work, I don't think it works.
Yeah. I remember back in the financial crisis of '08, everything fell. Like bonds fell, stocks fell, everything fell. And it's not supposed to work that way.
Yeah.
And at the time, I felt like I needed to be a lot closer to the source of information as a financial advisor to understand what an economist is saying better. So I started going to the Federal Reserve, downloading the Floor Funds reports. It's a book like that big, trying to go through the data. But I got to a point where I could simplify their quarterly report, look for some systematic data that would keep me informed, and it would be my delier when I was hearing somebody talk about something.
Sure.
You talk about such a broad range of subjects. Like, I would imagine you got pretty good at being able to see the BS every once in a while, or like you say, what's their agenda? Is there things you look for, or phrases, or what do you look for to help you identify where this agenda is?
If I hear someone say the word look,
or biased, where the bias is.
If I hear someone say the word look, the following line that comes after that is a prepared statement.
Okay.
Every time.
Yep.
Look. the reason we had to vote the way we voted is because of this.
Okay.
Look, I never said that. Look. Whenever someone says look, it's a prepared statement that follows. So I've learned that. That's one little trick of the trade. So when
Yep.
you're sitting here on your 221st podcast
Yeah.
and someone says, look, James,
Yeah.
you'll know that look is just it's a segue for that subject to then go into a talking point.
Yep.
So I can tell when someone's on talking points, when someone's being authentic. My job as an interviewer is to try to derail the scripted conversation and get into a space that's vulnerable and authentic. And that's hard.
It is.
It's hard to get someone to that place, but it's also hard for that person to be in the space.
Yep.
And once they're there, I do something that I never want to lose. I know that I've sidetracked this person and made them uncomfortable. We're both human beings. So I know they don't feel well in that moment. So when the camera's not on me, I kind of give them a look like, we're good.
Okay.
Just to reassure them, not to, just if you want to be human, this interaction that we're having is real. Like, I mean, the way you look at someone matters. And so if you're going to like make someone uncomfortable and they're doing something awful, someone ripped off a bunch of people and is hurting people, then you don't give them the benefit of the comfort. But if someone is truly like a public servant who's like, well, the reason I voted that way is because of this. I said, but that's not what you said. 2 weeks ago, you said the reason you voted this is because of this. And you're taking them off their game. I kind of give them a look like, you got this. Like, tell me. Let's be honest. Let's be truthful. And it often kind of comforts them enough where they go, okay, here's the deal. And then they tell me what really happened. If they say, look, then I know they're going somewhere
It's got to be
else.
tough for them, especially people have teams behind them sometimes, and like, you got to talk about this, you got to talk about this only. Don't get sidetracked. Don't get off script.
Yeah, I mean, look, the talking points, there it is.
Oh.
The talking points are there for a reason.
Yep.
The talking points are there because you're supposed to have a roadmap. There's
Yep.
nothing wrong with that. These people are very talented, people who train
Right.
public speakers or politicians to get on camera. But I think it's not those talking points that the viewer walks away feeling full. I think it's the follow-up questions. I think often people don't know that, the follow-up is more important than just extracting talking points.
Right.
So, and the most simple follow-ups are, how do you know that? Where are you getting that? Do you know that's true? Who told you that? These are just simple follow-ups. And it takes the person off that talking point game and allows the viewer, because that's who I'm working for, is the person on the other end of the camera, to say, hey, I'm
There's
helping you
something-
here. I'm unpacking this. Okay,
something
so what do you?
genuine there.
I asked President Trump a year and a half ago, actually 2 years ago now. It was when he was running, and he did an interview with me, and he was talking about the Venezuelan jail population and how it was emptying out in such large numbers. And we have this crisis here. It's because of Biden's policies, he said. And he had some numbers in there, so I just looked at the camera and said, well, Mr. President, where are you getting your numbers from? And and he didn't have the answer for that. He says, the papers from Venezuela. He didn't really know where to go with it. And that moment went viral. Of course, I got a lot of hate mail from people who are his supporters who thought that it was a gotcha question. And I resent that. It's not a gotcha question. If, when
That's a legitimate question.
It's a legitimate question, but
Nice
no
to
one's
know.
asking those questions. I mean, this kind of okay, well, we understand that you have a hard stance on immigration. So that's why he said what he said about Venezuela. No, when Vice President Biden at the time came to Detroit, and the team was, you don't need to talk about NAFTA. That was a long time ago, and he was a senator, the North American Free Trade Agreement. And I said, he's in Detroit. I want to reflect that way.
It's a big deal.
So I asked him,
Yep.
you voted for NAFTA when you were a senator. Do you regret that? And then he gave me the answer that I knew would be a standard answer. And then I said, but you knew all that back then. You knew those things were true, but you still voted for it. So how do we trust that you'll work to help unions moving forward? If people on the other side of that camera want to know. Kind, friendly, and it threw him off his game. Then I got a bunch of liberal folks who are like, you MAGA guy, this. So you get the hate mail from both sides. And look, on one day I'm a liberal hack, the next day I'm a conservative fascist. I'm just doing my job. And that's to ask questions, and to ask questions respectfully. I've never been disrespectful to a guest in 30 years of doing journalism. You don't need to be, but you got to be tough but firm. You can do it being polite. And I think that's kind of like, maybe more people should try to be more authentic, because if you try to just be Mr. Tough Guy, they're trained for that. What they're not trained for is someone to actually try to help unpack something for the viewer on the other end of the camera and do it calmly. Because if they start yelling, they seem out of control, right? You know what? So I think it humanizes each other. I think that's really important. I just want to bring a human conversation, because all these people, you know, most of the politicians out there that I've interviewed genuinely want to help people.
But if you ask them their story about why do they get into politics, a lot of the stories I hear are something happened, they saw something,
Yeah.
they wanted to try to make something better, they want to help somebody out. Most of the stories I hear, there's
Most
very
of them
good
are.
intent
There are.
as to why they got in.
And it's a complicated thing. You know, I go to Washington a couple times a year and cover the State of the Union address, and I sit with Congress people and senators, and you listen to the things that they tell you. The reason they have to do what they do to make the chart that you showed earlier look that way is because it's a game that, unfortunately, you can't just, you know, I mean, I don't know that if it was Biden, if you can just sit there as a Democrat and start spouting off about how you don't agree with his policies, if you're going to get your bill passed. If you're a Republican, you probably shouldn't sit there and badmouth the president if you want him to sign your bill.
Right.
I mean, so there's politics. And by the way, that's also at the local level. There are mayors of local cities, city council people right here in Metro Detroit who have to play that game. It's happening everywhere. It's happening at school boards. I'd argue that it's happening with kids and their parents. I mean, negotiation and figuring out how to get what you want is not just a game being played in Washington. It's something that the human element is all about. We all have to negotiate to get what we want.
Yeah. So you got pretty good at doing it on the fly in an interview. I can read like an economic report or something like that, and when you can read something and reread it 2 or 3 times, like, oh, okay, I see where the bias is. But you've gotten obviously very skilled at being able to figure it out on the fly.
Well, I think a lot of it is the reading that you're doing. I'm doing. Everything we're covering is a continuation of what already happened. So if you just keep up with the news all the time and read voraciously, read a lot. You know, if I had advice for any journalists out there, or even citizen journalists, know your stuff. Read. Know facts, know figures. Be interested genuinely. And if you read enough and you make a lot of calls, I think that's really important. Call people when you don't need anything. I call congressional aides all the time. What are you working on? Why is she passionate about this? Why is he against this? If you ask those questions, you just have this institutional knowledge, or when someone says something to you, you can kind of bounce it back.
Yeah. So I think even among friend groups, I see that there's a hesitation to go down a path. We were with a bunch of friends the other day, and somebody started to mention something about a company that they didn't like because they were favorable toward this administration, but then they stopped themselves from going too far into their explanation for fear that the conversation might begin. And I suppose they thought it'd be a bad conversation. I don't know why. But I see that often, that people are hesitant to go down certain paths because they assume it's going to turn into a potential fight and they just don't want to go there. And again, we're seeing, I think, more people agree than disagree, but we're afraid of that fringe.
Yeah.
That may not even happen. But so how do we become better listeners amongst our friends, do you think?
I think that's a hard one. I think if you're close to someone, you can have, sometimes it's harder, but I believe that if you're close to someone who's a friend, family members are hard. Like your father, your mother, your sister, your brother, those are harder because there's multiple relationships happening there. You know, you can talk about politics, but you're just brothers and sisters, or you're your mom or your dad. And so there's a risk-reward ratio that you have to kind of look at. You know, is it worth it to talk to my dad about politics when I know he feels one way or the other? And I think you have to make that calculation, not just at Thanksgiving dinner, but on the day that you pick up the grandkids, or you're sitting at soccer practice with the grandkids playing. You have to understand, like, there's a calculation that you have to make. How tired am I? How much am I willing to invest? What am I willing to risk? It's kind of the stuff with money that you do every day, but it's an emotional topic. And politics no longer is just about politics. It's reflecting something deeper. It's a value system. And so it's hard for people to separate that if I support this policy from this president, that I also support these other 8 things that he may have said or done.
Right.
And that's true, in the last 10 years of politics, it's changed. When you disagreed with George W. Bush, I do remember, though, when the Iraq War started, there were some deep divides going on. I mean, we forget easily because of our phones swiping. We how quickly we forget. But it was, after 9/11, there was this great sense of unity. I recently saw a video of President George W. Bush taking to the baseball field in New York in October after 9/11, just weeks after, and how he was cheered and how he said he never felt anything like that sense of unity. It wasn't far after that he was being ripped apart by people saying, why are we going to war with Iraq? And he was even ripped apart further because there was no weapons of mass destruction that were found. Why were we there? And then we find out about Dick Cheney and Halliburton. And so it's not like this has always been easy, but it's become, because of all the things we've talked about here today, tougher to have those conversations. But I think the calculation needs to be made. How close are those friends that you were talking about with one another? How much energy do I have? What's the maturity level of the other people and the tolerance level of the people around me? Because if I know someone has a short fuse, I'm not talking about it with them.
Yeah.
It's not worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. I recently published a couple articles. One of them's on NATO, history of NATO and the funding of it. And one of them's on national security strategies from Biden.
Just some light reading for James Studinger, nothing.
Yeah. 2022 and Trump's 2025. The NATO one I wrote literally, I think, 2 years ago for the most part. And then I updated it, rewrote it, but I didn't release it. It was my own internal trying to understand something better, not for general use. But
sure.
The biggest hesitancy that I had, it's like what you said, are people going to think that I am therefore, they're going to see this as pro-Trump, pro-Trump or pro-Biden, and not see the information that's in it. And I was really consciously aware of the information that's in it and how I wrote it. On the NATO one, all of my information came from NATO documents. All of it did. And the presidential quotes came from White House historical records. And on the national security strategy, literally everything came from those 2 documents, nothing else. And so I think I think I wrote it where people are seeing the facts when they read it. But I had some angst over putting that out because people are going to assume this or they're going to assume that. And, some people might assume I'm Republican, some people might assume I'm Democrat. I vote for whoever the hell I want to vote for.
Yeah.
I don't see myself as either party, honestly. Sure. But it's amazing how we might read into something that's being put out there.
It's what an interesting experience for you. It's very fascinating. I think the fact that you chose to publish an article on a topic without even reading it, people are going to make assumptions about why your intent behind it.
Why am I doing that?
Why are you're trying to make a point that this is good or this is bad? When I choose topics for the Pulse every night, I usually do 3 topics in a half hour. And that's on top of the 7-minute monologue we do at the top of the show where we cover all the day's news and politics. When I choose to hone in and really kind of focus in for context on a topic, people then read into that and say the reason you're focusing on that is because you're trying to rip President Trump apart, or you're trying to, the other side will say you're trying to protect the administration. I did a segment the other night on Trump IRAs, the retirement accounts that this administration is putting out there. And of course we know about the ones for when a baby's born, the Trump accounts. So these Trump IRAs. And so it's 2 different ones. And I did it at 10 for an interview with a financial guy. I should have you on soon. And I did another one on the Pulse. And I got, 6 or 7 emails from some Democrats who are angry that you're promoting, this is all you can find that's positive about Trump. Why don't you talk about the Epstein files? While I'm talking about Trump IRAs, you want me to just hop in there and chat about Epstein files?
Yep.
And so then when I do a whole piece on Epstein files about how that monster Epstein was here in Michigan at Interlochen, I did an entire segment with a lawmaker who is trying to subpoena Epstein file records from Washington, a local lawmaker here in Michigan. And I interviewed her. Then I got the mail from the right saying, so that's all you can do? Why don't you talk about something good that he's done? And I'm not even mad at it because it's not their fault. They, meaning the people who are watching, they're literally being that chart you showed me. Social media makes it's us against them. It's everyone else is the other. The media is evil. We're terrible. There's nothing could be further from the truth. The reason more people are watching local news than ever before, I mean, than national news, 70% trust, 70%, because people know, like, I live in this community. I'm not here to like try to divide and fracture the community. I have friends who are MAGA right, and I have friends who are uber left, and I genuinely like them both. I think they're just good human beings or decent people who just care deeply about this country and have very different ways of looking at it. And people who defend outrightly everything that President Biden did, and then someone else who defends everything President Trump does, I have an issue with that.
I do too.
I'll admit it. I'll say it on the air.
Yep.
This is not a demigod. This is not a king. And I hate to even say that because of the No Kings rally, but this is not a god. Like, you have to be able, and with Biden too, you know, I said it on my show, the border was a mess under many presidents, by the way, for 40 years. But it was a mess under President Biden, and not enough was done. And I've interviewed fathers for fentanyl. I've interviewed moms who've lost kids because of fentanyl. And you got to stave that off. I've interviewed the head of Homeland Security on The Pulse, and he talked about why he thinks it's important to keep the drug flow out. Now, does that mean that I support all ICE operations? No, but people assume that, right? Because you said, look, this topic is important to talk about. Now I talked about that. Now you say, oh, so you support you support masked ICE agents?
Right.
It's not the topic. The topic was about fentanyl.
Right.
And so when you defend someone outrightly 100% for everything they've done, I don't do that with my own father and mother, my own wife, my own loved ones. Why would I do that with someone who I don't even
know?
No.
At all.
Who's your president?
I hardly know my neighbor legitimately.
Legitimately. So for you
somebody that lives in some other place that I've shook their hand once or something.
For these guys to be Biden, Trump, Kamala Harris, I don't care which person you're talking about, for them to just get a pass in your world to say everything that they say, I am on board with it. Anyone who is against anything this person says is my enemy.
Yep.
I feel terrible that they're in that situation because honestly, I don't think that's their true character. I believe that this is how we've been divided, and you can put the blame on the shoulders of the media too. We have a responsibility, but that's what I'm trying to change, and we're trying to change at the local level. I don't know about the other three stations in town. I don't have a chance to watch a lot of them. I have respect for all of them. They're all trying to do good work. I believe that we are doing it differently at Fox 2. It's like, let's do a nightly political talk show. There's only a few other cities doing that.
Right.
And let's do it in a way where we give people a chance to unpack this stuff, and we don't deify one group and vilify the other, but really just kind of talk about what's going on.
Yeah. I'd like to be open. Okay, thanks. Yeah, I'd like to be, I don't know, open-minded but I guess be able to see the good that's happening, and that anger and distrust can make it so you don't even realize there's a lot of good things happening right now. There's always been good things that have been done from administrations going back decades.
This is a great country, and this great country is because there are really good people and smart people who are trying their best to make things work. That's the vast majority of them. The bad actors, they need to be exposed. And the national media and the local media, we need to expose bad things that are happening and bad players. And when someone who's good does something bad, we got to talk about that too. Doesn't make them all bad.
Yep.
But, when we talked about Biden and the border, it's real.
Yep.
If we talk about President Trump, and maybe he shouldn't be posting as often on his social media accounts, and maybe that would help.
Only wish. But it is.
Maybe is there something wrong with pointing that out?
Yeah, I don't know. But,
It's his freedom to do it.
Right.
But I'm saying expect a reaction.
Yeah.
Physics, when you do, there's every reaction is.
Also, I guess I've realized
reaction.
People are who they are to some degree, not just, Trump, but anybody. And we have our things that are strengths, we have our things that are not, and people are who they are, and we can't expect that they're always going to change and be molded under one figure.
Especially these older politicians.
Represent themselves well in some ways and poorly in other ways in our perception.
And these are folks who've been around the block a million times. President Biden, all of the people on both sides of the political aisle have been around a long time, and their job is not to please everybody all the time. And I really don't think that President Trump or former President Biden are sitting back thinking about what James and Roop have to say about their social media accounts. Right. They're doing them. And but it's up to the public to say, I like this and I don't like this. It's okay to have a cafeteria style approach to this.
Right.
You may not like everything that someone does. I think independent thinking is something that I respect deeply. And I wish perhaps more people didn't have to just pick a side with everything and be able to just think a little more independently. I'd like to try, to think that I like to do that. And I hope to continue to do that.
Yeah. Stay curious, everybody.
Stay curious.
Yeah.
Yep.
2 more questions. One of them is real quick. A tip on what would you tell a 14-year-old right now that has a dream? What would you tell them to get started with it? How to get started with it? What to do?
If you have a friend circle around you and you know that you're interested, even if you don't know if that's what you want to do, whether it be medicine or law or business, dress for the part, borrow your dad's tie, or if you're a young lady, do what you got to do to look the part the best you can with what you got, and head over to one of those places and say, I want to spend my spring break with you for 5 days.
Okay.
Complete nerd move. But maybe 5 days worth of no school and sitting back and making relationships and just do what James does and what we're talking about. Be curious, listen, and just sit back and take notes. And it's fine with your phone too. Do what you got to do, but take pictures, make an impression, ask questions, and then say, hey, can I do this again? Maybe not for 5 days. I don't want to bother you forever. But can I come back to the law firm for my winter break just for a day?
Yeah.
Can I
shadow
come
for a day?
Shadow for a day,
Yeah.
but do it consistently.
Yep.
I think my advice is one-time shadowing doesn't do much.
Okay.
You got to be consistent with your shadowing. And that would be my advice to any 14-year-old.
Same thing with your questions. You go a little deeper.
Yes.
Yeah.
Every time.
All right, Roop, my last question for you. Unless there's anything else you wanted to mention.
You've been a great host, and I've enjoyed being
Thanks,
being
Roop.
here
I'm
with you.
honored you're here.
It's my pleasure.
So the name of this podcast is
Wealth is a choice. Boom.
And wealth means a lot of things to a lot of people. Could be money, could be health, could be athletics, could be family, could be spiritualness, all kinds of stuff. From whatever wealth means to you at this moment in your life, do you think that wealth is a choice, that we have some control over it?
Depending on the day, yes.
Okay.
And depending on the thing, yes. I think you and I, and perhaps many of the people on the other side of the camera, if your basic needs are taken care of, you can now advance. It's, the Maslow's hierarchy of needs in psychology they teach. But if you have food and you have shelter and you're able to take care of those things, can you then grow that seed into something bigger and better? Yes. Perhaps, if the other parts are working well. But synergy is a funny thing, because if you don't have those basic things, you gotta have boots to have bootstraps to pick yourself up from. And I think we often function and operate from a place where we think and talk about people as though we all are at the same starting point, and I don't think we all are. So financially, you know more about this than me, but I would think that it's harder if you have nothing, and if you're really struggling to put gas in the tank and food on the table, to start thinking about investing into an IRA. But I think we all have the wealth of consciousness to be able to sit back and say, what does this day look like? What does my life look like today? And to zoom out and to be able to take a close look at it, so you can make the calculations of the things you need and the things you can be grateful for and the things you can be mad about. But you got to be able to have the wealth of consciousness to be able to say, how am I doing? How often do we ask other people how they're doing? How often do we look in the mirror, or perhaps just ask ourselves in the car, how are you doing? And if you truly have the wealth of consciousness, that self-awareness of knowing where you are at any given time tells you how short your fuse is, the risks you can take at the dinner party to talk about the politics thing, at work, how much of a risk you can take with your bosses and moving forward with something. The wealth of consciousness gives us a wealth of opportunity. And I think just that self-awareness piece is something that we all have, even when things are bad.
Yeah, I like that, Roop. Thanks for sharing that.
Well, it's my pleasure.
My uncle, Uncle Roger, is the only person I've ever seen ask a question this way. But when you'd see him, he'd come up to you and he'd say, "How's Roop doing today?" He didn't say, "How are you?" "How's Roop doing today?" And asking it a little bit different was so much more real and personal and intimate. And he actually thought about
how to ask that question.
How am I doing today?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, Uncle Roger is right.
He is.
He was right. How are you doing today? But put your own name in there. Yeah.
Thanks, Roop. It's a pleasure.
Pleasure was mine.
Yeah,
Thank
love
you so
it, man.
much for having me. That was
Awesome.
really fun.
All
Thank
right,
you.
cool.